Hi there. That was the F-Zero Big Blue thing. I'm going to try and do a little bit of different music for every video that I do. And today we're actually doing a top 10 list that I was asked to do by my buddies that I work with at work. This one goes to Chip and Dave. And we're going to do my top 10 sports games. Now with this one, it took me a little while to figure out exactly what games I wanted to do. I made at least 3 or 4 lists, and I finally found one that actually does a pretty good job of narrowing it down. Still not very easy, but it's certainly a nice little work in progress. And the easiest thing to remember when you're making your own little top 10 is basically you're finding the games that you wanted to put on there that you feel like are probably the best games you have played yet. And so this is, for me, very easily the best. And if you see that I'm kind of dozing or looking away, I'm trying to find clips of music for each one or something that I can help portray it for you guys to know exactly what I was getting at when I first did these games for. Yeah, I'm going to probably say that a couple times, so at least Jim and Holden and everybody else will get a little laugh because they'll know exactly what it's from. But we're going to make the list, and I'm going to tell you what they are. I'll have some of the games here with me. I'll be able to show you what the cartridges or something look like. That way you'll have an idea. If not, I can pretty much explain it to you, and you'll be able to know what I'm talking about, and then you can always go look it up yourself. But for the most part, I'll be as informative as I can be, and we'll go from there. So just gotta bear with me for a moment while I'm trying to get some music here. I know number 10. We'll start right now. It's gonna be No, it's not. It's WCW versus NWO World Tour. Came out on the N64. And the main thing I really liked about this game is the music. It's very, very catchy. And when you first listen to it, you're kind of astounded as to what it is. And actually, if you will bear with me for a second, we'll actually hear it right about now. Now, when I think of a fighting game, this is actually something pretty good. Because if you think about it, you just listen to it. That's all you got to do, and I'll just hang back, and that's it. Grapple. KO. Well, the best part of the song is coming up right about now. So here you go. And that's the main option screen. And the thing I really liked about this game is back when it came out, the graphics were pretty much what to be expected. It was pretty good at the time. Looking back at it and playing now, it's not very good at all. But back in the 90s, that was the best we had. And so when you're playing the game, you're using the control stick to move around and whatnot. And then you have your D-pad that you use for taunts. And it's a very simple grapple system. It's A, your B is to strike, then you have your reversal and whatnot with the L and R. And it's a very simple game. It's certainly a game that's been overlooked because like later on in 98, 99, WWE, well, F back in the day, but now it's E, No Mercy came out, and it was just the game to beat. It was exactly what you wanted it to be. It was everything. It was a whole lot of fun. It was a good 4-player action game. And so when you had a bunch of people, you could have a nice little tournament, and then you just go from there. And that's the reason why it's my number 10. Now for my next one, I'm going to give a shout out to Holden Collins. We've played this game quite a bit. He'll be mentioned later on as well. But for this one, we've played a little bit of it. We haven't really dived too deep into the game itself. But here we go. Number 9, NHL 96 on the Sega Genesis. Now this is it's a nice fun game back in the 90s when the regular consoles were out before the N64 and whatnot. It was certainly a fun game. It was pretty difficult. It's the mechanics of the game is what makes it a whole lot of fun because you can, with the D-pad, with the Sega, you actually could go up, left, up, right, and go in a diagonal instead of just always left, right, up, down. And so it was always a nice little fun fact that if you knew what you were doing, you could actually do pretty well. You could do your spin moves if you did the right button combination, just little wrist shots, slap shots. That all pretty much depends on exactly how you play the game. And when you're trying to beat the computer, when you have it on the highest difficulty, you have to know everything you're going to do, have to make sure you have good, clean passes, or else they're going to get stolen away, and then pretty much going to be a breakaway, and you're going to suffer the consequences if your goalie's not going to be playing well. But luckily for us, we always had a nice, decent idea of what we were doing, and we usually at least tied or won. I mean, we lost, but we had a lot of fun. And so that's number 9. Now for number 8, once again, Holden. There's also Jordan Manor, Charles Wilcox, and Saint Germain. We played this game quite a bit when I got it as well. If you've ever heard the term boom shakalaka, or he's heating up and he's on fire, you already kind of know where I'm going with this, but we're going back before it was on the N64, and if you have it on the On Fire edition for the PlayStation Network and the Xbox Live Arcade. We're going to go further back, and we're going to go with the Genesis version of NBA Jam, except this one is the Tournament Edition. Now this one you'll still hear the boom shakalaka, or he's on fire, which it's over-the-top commentary that isn't necessary, but it's on there because it's fantastic. And now for this game, it's the 90s rosters. It's probably one of my favorite rosters to ever play with because it's most of the people that I know that I grew up watching. And so then when you go and play it when you're my age, you know much more players and you know who they are, and some of them are actually in the Hall of Fame now and they're legends and whatnot. So it's always fun to go back and be like, oh yeah, I used to watch him when he was still playing. And it's certainly always fun to just see how they've gone from basketball to their next steps in their careers, and it's always interesting. So that's my number 8. Alright, now this next one, it's going to be number 7. This is another shout out to Holden Collins. We've played this game once or twice. I think the second time we played it, we played for 3.5 hours. He already knows exactly what it is because I swore quite a bit during this game because it took us, like I said, 3.5 hours, 29 innings, and he won by a run, 1-0. Hit it to my shortstop. I couldn't throw it home fast enough, apparently. It's very irritating to lose by a run. But I better tell you what it is now because pretty much I don't want to talk about it after this because it's still mind-numbingly irritating. But it's Ken Griffey Jr.'s winning run. There's not really much I can say about the game that really, if you've ever heard of it, you'll already know what the game's about. It's baseball. I mean, there's only one actual named player, and that's Ken Griffey Jr., because I don't think they had the rights to get other players' names, so there's a whole bunch of other funny names that are on there that really kind of makes it worth it. But for the most part, it's just a regular baseball game. It's all about timing, really. If you're going to try and hit home runs all the time, the games back in the day, you really had to know what you were doing. You had to time everything just right. And once you did and you got it down, you were able to hit a lot of home runs, and it always made the game a lot more fun when you knew what you were doing. I know an honorable mention here would be Frank Thomas's Big Hurt Baseball. It's actually just as good of a game, but I chose Ken Griffey Jr. just because I had that one game that was 3.5 hours, 29 innings. And I'll probably actually post a video that I recorded that day that it lasted that long. I got the very end of it, and so you'll see the raw emotion. And you'll see the victory dance and some swearing, but for the most part, it'll just be a lot of fun. And so that is my number 7. Now, for this next game, we got to think back to 2001. The N64 was well in its stride. The PlayStation 1 was out. It was competing just as well because people finally caught on. And so for this one, it's NBA Live 2001. It's got Tim Duncan on the cover. It's a decent game. It's pretty much just your basic basketball game. Really not much to really say about it, but there's a couple of nice little aspects of the game that make it a little bit more entertaining for you. You can play Michael Jordan one-on-one, and if you beat him, you can sign him to any team that you like. And so when I was playing it back in the day, I always usually put him on the Bulls, just because I wanted them to be there. And whenever I played, I always made my own guy, made him as tall as I could. I maxed all of his stats out to 99. And so I'd have my guy and Michael Jordan. I try and find the original Bulls team and put it back together because it was a lot of fun to see those guys play. And so that's one, actually I see both parts that I wanted to talk about was creating a character and Michael Jordan. And so this game, it's like I said, it's just your basic NBA Live. It's a lot of fun. I'd recommend it very easily. The more players you have, the better. It's entertaining. It's a little bit challenging once you turn up the difficulty, but you still have a pretty easy time at least beating the game. And so it's certainly a lot of fun. For this next game, actually, I'm going to try and find a little bit of music right now because it's the first game I really played that I got into football with, and so it was a lot of fun then. I actually own it, but I don't have it here. It's one of the main things I wish I had, but I know I'm going to be able to pick it up here soon. And, you know, it's a lot of fun. It's the one game that I really wish I had again, just because it was the game that you wanted to have when it first came out. It was revolutionary for its time. And it's not looking very good. But more or less, my number 5 game for the top 10 sports list is Madden 64. Now, when I first played this game, I didn't really know much about football. And so I always, watched a little bit, and I only knew Brett Favre from Green Bay Packers. It was a lot of fun, but I never really was able to follow it because I didn't understand it. I still I've gotten a really good grasp on it now. My downfall is I don't know how to play defense, which if you've seen me play Madden, Jordan, Chance, you guys know I'm not good with defense, but I'm the no-huddle master when it comes to Peyton Manning or Andrew Luck or any other team. I just no-huddle the shit out of you guys, and I usually go for 4th down and like 20, and I get 10 yards, and then I start swearing. But it's always kind of fun because it's entertaining to see how they're going to react, because I audible every single audible that I find. And I remember one game, Chance actually asked me, do you even know what play you're choosing? I told him, yeah, because I know all the plays that I like to pick. And so Madden 64, when I went back and tried to play it like that, I wasn't very good at it. It was not easy to do because it was just a whole different system back in the day because you actually had to know what you were doing. And so for the most part of Madden 64, it was very challenging when I first played it because like I said, wasn't sure what I was doing. I know I had to obviously score to beat the other team and try and stop them, which is the same with any game that you play. And, you know, it's a very easy game to get into, and once you get it, you're all set. It's a lot of fun, and I would definitely suggest that one for any football fan. I know it's going to be really crappy to play now with Madden 13 being out and whatnot, but, you know, it's certainly a lot of fun. Maybe this might be a little bit of an interest for you. Hold on a second.
EA Sports in the game.
Yeah, that's old. Let's see, what do we got? If you guys could just see this, it looks so awful. But that's enough of that because it's certainly nice to listen to, like when you actually have the time. But that's my number 5 pick is Madden 64. Now this next one, I'm at, Dave, you might not appreciate where I put it, but it's where it's going to be. And for this one, my number 4, if you just bear with me for a second. I first played this game a few years ago back on the Nintendo, and if you're ready for this, this is my number 4 pick. The music is fantastic. I love it so much. I'll play Tecmo Bowl, the Nintendo. I want to play some Tecmo Bowl. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. That's the best I got for my improv for Tecmo Bowl. That game itself, it's another football game. I've grown to love it so much now. When I first played it, I was immediately hooked on it. And now, once again, I usually sit down and play a game or two, or I can try and play a little bit of a season. I always pick random teams just because all of them have their own little different plays. And it's always fun to just see how they're going to do and exactly what they have. But it came out on the Nintendo, and at the time when you played it, you weren't really sure what was going on because as soon as you scored, you saw a nice little cutscene to where the two guys basically jumped up and gave each other high fives and touchdown by the refs. It was a nice little cinematic that you've never really seen in a game. And then when you saw it, it was like, all right, this is actually pretty fun. And then once you play defense and the music, I mean, my favorite music in that game is the offense. Like when you're playing offense, it's very, very catchy. I'm going to try and find a little clip here for you just because it is amazing how fun the music is. Apparently I don't know how to spell offense yet, so you're going to have to bear with me. I don't know if that's it, but this is going to be like a Mario Paint theme of it. I'm kind of hoping this is what I'm looking for. If not, I apologize. I'm going to throw the ball to the receiver. I'm going to score a touchdown. Yes, I am. I win the game. It wasn't really what I was hoping for, but it kind of works. you know. Let me see, what else do I have here? Yeah, it's just some random little gibberish I like to throw in once in a while. Kind of wish I could find it, but that's okay. No, that's not it. It's do-do-do-do-do. No. It's always fun to listen to, I must say. But, like I said, my number 4 was Tecmo Bowl. And now this next one, I once again played it just a few years ago when I picked it up because I always looked at the title. I was not really sure what it was. And when I actually played it, it was one of the best games I've played. And I don't like to say that about a lot of games that I play, but as soon as the music starts, or you'll hear exactly what it is, I'm going to have the cartridge ready so that way we'll know exactly what my number 3 pick is. This one is a shout out to Holden Collins as well because we played this quite a bit. So, here we go. My hockey game, I'm on the Nintendo. My name is Blades of Steel. Yes, Blades of Steel. That's exactly. It's a very misinforming title. I actually thought it was going to be like an action-adventure game. Then I got it and I found it was a hockey game. It was impressive to say the least, because I was not sure exactly what it was going to be, and then when you actually play the game, you turn it on, you hear, bling, Blades of Steel. Now, I know I was just singing, so if it's awful, I apologize, but that's okay anyway. Just felt like I had to say that. But no, Blades of Steel, it gives you a choice of, I think, like 8 teams or something, and they're actually NHL teams. One of my favorite things to do on that is actually get in fights, because you just see your 2 guys go like this, and then they start fighting, and then if you lose, he lies down, and you go on, and you're all right. The main thing to remember about that is with the goalie, not only were you controlling your own guys with the D-pad, you were actually controlling your goalie with it as well. So you had to be able to multitask, and when you're playing the game now, it's a little bit easier, but I imagine if I played it when I first started playing games 21 years ago, probably wouldn't have been too good at it. I would have been cussing up the storm, but I mean, I still swear quite a bit at that game because it's just ridiculous. It's kind of hard, but that's the way the games are supposed to be. I kind of wish they'd revert to that way now, but they do. It's a little bit more entertaining to go take a little trip in history, and so that's my number 3 pick. It's always fun to go and play my original games that I always try and find. It's a lot more fun when I can find little sound bits, because then you'll be able to hear it and you'll be like, oh yeah, I do remember that. And then it'll make you think about when you first found the game or when you first played it. It'll bring back your first reaction to it, and it's always a nice little state of bliss that I try and find. Now my number 2 game as well, this one might surprise a couple people. It's certainly a fun game. I really like this game a lot. I'm not going to say I've gotten really good at it. I've played it enough to where I know what I'm kind of doing. But there's certain little bits and pieces of music that are always fun, and this is probably my favorite part of it. And so, my number 2 pick is now, think back to 1987. Who was your ref? That's right. It was Mario. You were this little boxer. His name was Little Mac. Your first fight, you fought a guy named Glass Joe. He was quite easy. He had think he had 99, no, 0, 99, and 0. So he had no wins whatsoever. And then gradually throughout the game, they got a little bit harder. Your first real challenge was when you fought King Hippo. Now, with him, you actually, if you're like me, when you first played it, you just kind of went for the face. But if you actually look, and this is a little bit of a spoiler alert, so you've been warned, when he raises his fist, you have to look at his stomach. You'll see the bandage. And you have to time it just right to where you can hit the bandage, and that's your opportunity to stun him. And when you do that, you'll actually have enough time to get a few good punches in. And then all you have to do is knock him down once, and that's going to be the game, at least for him. And it all also depends on what version of Punch-Out you played. You had the Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, which was the original title before Mike Tyson went to jail. And then Nintendo still had to make money off Punch-Out, so they named it, which is what most people can find nowadays. It's Punch-Out featuring Mr. Dream. They're both the same game. They both have the same final boss. I mean, obviously one's Mike Tyson's, the other one's Mr. Dream, but they both fight the same way. They're incredibly fast. You have to know exactly what you're doing. It's all about memorization at that point. And so your reflexes are tested to its limits, because if you mess up once, that fight's pretty much over and you're pretty much boned. But that game, I think everyone, especially Dave and maybe Chip, might have thought I put that as #1. But for the #1 overall pick in the 2013 Top 10 Sports list, I wanted to kind of build the suspense like the NFL draft for the #1. This one, it took me a few minutes to decide if I actually wanted to include this one, just because I wasn't sure if I'd be able to make it work, because it's more or less like a party game, but there's also a nice little aspect where you have to know what you're doing. As soon as you hear the music, once again, you'll know exactly what it is, just because it's the best music in the world. And then I'm actually going to try and find my favorite track music on that. So, ladies and gentlemen, my #1 pick. Welcome to Mario Kart! Woohoo! Ah, yes, Mario Kart. I'm going to let you listen to this for a minute. Yep, Mario Kart 64. That is my #1 pick, for at least for sports games. It's a racing/party game. Like I said, I was kind of hesitant to put it on there, but I decided it's going to be my list, and so I put it on there. There's really not much I can say about this game that people don't know. It's a lot of fun. It's probably like one of the best party games if you have 4 people besides Super Smash Brothers, which I will eventually be doing a Super Smash Brothers like trilogy kind of review of Smash Brothers Melee, and then Brawl, leading up to eventually I'll do a quad review when the Smash Brothers Wii U comes out. But for that right now, I want you to listen to what I personally think is easily the best music in any of the games, and I'm going to let it play out. And so that was my top 10 list. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. I love getting feedback. I want you guys to give me ideas, so I want you guys to listen, and thank you.